Much trouble though.
I think probably, but I was like on hair. I was like, get me out of here. Like I'll plead anything. Like just get me out of here. And like I had a public defender that was probably on methadone, and he was like, yo, you're fucked, man. Like,
We're live. Jared Klickstein, what the fuck's up, dude?
Thank you for having me. Total honor.
Dude, thanks for coming to do this.
Yeah, of course.
I was hyping your book up on the Patreon too. I never really talked about it on the regular one, I don't think.
No, I appreciate it. It changed everything. Yeah.
Dude, that shit was unbelievable.
Thank you.
Glad you're alive. I'm glad you sent me the thing and I'm like, all right, I started I read a sample chapter and I'm like, oh, this is fucking, I've always wanted, for people who don't know, you basically lived for a period on Skid Row.
Yeah.
And that's not, the whole story is like, how you got there, how you started off, blah, blah, blah. But Jesus Christ, for my like perverted voyeuristic brain, I was like, I can actually like get some boots on the ground account of that. Because you just drive by it and you're like, Jesus Christ. So that for me was very satisfying, which, I'm sure it's like, thanks, dickhead. I really was always curious what that was like.
Well, everyone's curious. I mean, everyone sees Skid Row. Everyone sees these homeless junkies, and like one finally made it out and is like can read words and write words and stuff.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
So so I wrote it, and I try to make it funny because a lot of people write these like drug memoirs, and they're really like Hunter Biden's memoir is probably not funny.
No,
and
unless you're against the Bidens, and you're like, ha ha.
Well, of course, yeah.
Actually, he does a good job at swaying people. I'm like, yeah, Joe Biden is a good fucking. Yeah, maybe he is. I don't fucking know.
Maybe he is.
But it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't funny. Hunter's was not. Really
you read
fun.
it?
Yeah, I read Hunter's. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm on a big autobiography kick, man. I read them all. Although I feel like, and forgive me, but I think there could have been aspects of his that might have been politically pressured to kind of like paint a certain light.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure he didn't write it either.
That's another big one.
Yeah, so I wrote it. And
although he was pretty productive, man. He was blasting. He was just ripping crack. He could have, yeah. What's crazy is I was just in Boston and I like went through all my personal stuff and I found all my dad's shit because my dad was a crackhead, and I got taken away when I was 12, and then he just went like full Hunter Biden. He got these camcorders, and I have like 20 hours of footage. No dicks or anything. Okay. Or not yet. I've only watched like 2 hours. What's his footage? So it's non-sex tapes. It's just him.
It's like him and my mom like smoking crack and like being paranoid, and like him doing drug deals and like setting up the camera on his like little Ford Taurus because he's paranoid.
True.
And it's like him like filming his closet, and he's like, the CIA has like summoned a demon to live in my closet. It's like really crazy.
How many hours of this footage do you have?
I have like 20 tapes. Yeah.
Damn.
So that'll probably be the subject of like the next book or like a documentary.
Yeah, I was about to say that would be a wild doc. Yeah. Damn, maybe he was just reviewing the tapes, trying to get better at drug dealing, and be like, I could have been a little more careful right there in that parking lot. I could have.
Well, I think he was just really paranoid and was filming everything. And I think crack does make you voyeuristic, or it makes you start filming for some reason. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, but this is like 2001, like with a camcorder.
I could see that. If you wake up and you're like, damn, last night was a movie, dude. I got to record the next one.
And he's like learning how to edit. It was like editing on the camera, like doing swipes and stuff. So it's like him smoking crack, and then there's just like a swipe of a picture of a crack pipe. He's like doing like iMovie shit from 2001.
So you're going to go through all that footage?
I'm going to go through I went through like 2 hours of it already.
Damn, what was that like? That must have been kind of charged.
I mean, I know I'm laughing and I know this is a comedy podcast, but yeah, it's dark.
Yeah,
it's
dude.
fucking dark.
Yeah, man. But, oh my God. Yeah, that would, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Did you submit for America's Funny Some Videos yet?
I mean,
and your dad passed recently?
My dad passed. Yeah.
Sorry
not from crack. Yeah, he cleaned up. Yeah. But thank you. Yeah. R.I.P. So this is a weird way to be introduced to my dad, but
yeah.
And I hope there's no dicks or any like. I'm just praying that there's no like sexual stuff. But
yeah, you can blur.
He wasn't like that.
You can blur him for the doc.
Yeah.
that would be pretty rugged, dude.
Yeah.
It's also I don't know. There is something heart. It's your parents, it's your dad. So there's something like heartwarming about watching it, but it is.
Yeah.
It's utterly twisted.
Well, what's really fucked up is like I remember them on drugs. So seeing them on drugs is like heartwarming.
Yeah,
which
that makes
fucked
sense.
up.
Yeah, it's very fucked up.
But it's good footage.
That would be a pretty stellar doc.
Yeah, HBO, if you're listening, Yeah,
and if there's any part of you that's like, is it right? It's like, dude, I always say yes.
Yeah.
They owe it to you.
Yeah.
If he recorded the crack footage, don't waste it. Be like, should I really put them out there like that? I would say yes.
Not in a bad way, but it's like, it's your story to tell.
Yeah, exactly.
If I was doing that and my kids had all that footage, I'd be like, yeah, dude, fuck it. You can do anything with this, please.
No, and it shows them in like a pretty good light. I mean, they're good. They were good people, you know? So like they're like having conversations and talking about cool shit and like, you know, dragons living in the closet and all that. So, so it is funny. It is dark, but, you know, unfortunately that's all the footage I have of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, most people don't have any. I have no videos really of my parents, so.
I know, you don't really think about that. So fortunately, they were crackheads and got really into camcorders.
That's pretty sick, dude. I might hire a camera crew, a full-time camera crew of my parents now. Catch their just catch their remaining years. Just turn their whole life into a reality show against their will.
Yeah. No, I filmed my dad like right before he died. He like told a story because he did Yo-Yo Ma's kitchen and like all his finished carpentry or like finished cabinetry and all that. And he was like stealing Oxycontin from Yo-Yo Ma.
Who's Yo-Yo Ma?
He was a celloist.
Yeah. Who was on Oxys?
I think he like is a legitimate guy that got like a back surgery or something. I
believe that.
But my dad did not, you know, he was just stealing it.
Doing his kitchen. And
yeah.
hit the
so
pantry,
he told the story. It was pretty funny.
That's really funny, actually.
Yeah.
How'd the kitchen turn out?
Really good. My dad was a great carpenter. He did John Kerry's desk and office, and John Kerry tried to not pay him.
What?
Yeah,
Senator John Kerry?
Senator John Kerry has it. Yeah, apparently he had an issue with paying people.
What?
Yeah, they wrote about it in the Boston Globe. Yeah.
Damn. I never heard. You heard it here first, dude. Boston Globe wrote the story, but heard it here second, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So he tried to how much did he try to stiff your dad for?
Oh, I don't know how much, but my dad went. You know, he was like a senator in Boston, and then I guess he went to D.C. at some point, and my dad went down to D.C. and like did his office down there.
Got you.
Yeah.
And he was like, thanks, dickhead.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brutal, dude.
Yeah.
That sucks. So that was like your whole start was just you grew up just it was kind of nuts, or like I remember you described it as like it was nuts, but as a little kid you would just watch your parents just kind of off the rails and be like, man, they're just they're a little stressed. Like you eventually learned. It was a funny part of that book was like I thought they were smoking weed, and I was like, holy shit, dude.
Well, that's what's cool about the like the tapes that I have, because my dad would make his own crack pipes, and they look like little like bongs, you know. So I would just find these bongs, and I just thought my parents were smoking weed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I saw Half Baked came out, and I was like, oh, my parents are just, you know, they just weigh 90 pounds and they smoke weed.
They must not be getting the munchies enough. Yeah, that is pretty. There was parts of that book literally I would just start crying. I brought it to Denver with me. I read it I like started reading it on the plane. I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's so like engrossing. You get so engrossed in it, and then I would get back from shows and just read it for like hours, and I ripped through it in like pretty much a weekend. Yeah.
Well, thank you, man. I mean, I'm not like, obviously I've like have holes in my brain, and I've like killed a lot of brain cells, so it's an easy read. You know, I'm not Shakespeare or anything, but but I appreciate
no old English in there at all.
No old English.
Yeah, it's relieving. Yeah.
But I'm sure you get hit up by a lot of people with like, here's a picture I drew or whatever. Here's a book I wrote. You know, thank you for reading it.
Dude, it was awesome. It was genuinely really, and then and you've been on Fox, I think, a couple times, or maybe what else? You've been on the news.
Yeah.
And you're like giving like the takes on like homelessness, which I thought that was kind of cool too. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Because you came out of that. I'm sure people would love to have you like, see, we need more funds. And you're like, actually.
Well, Fox loves me because if any opportunity to shit on California, like they'll take you on. So they took me on like immediately. And I'm like pretty apolitical, but and everyone was like, don't go on Fox, like it's gonna fuck your life up, fuck Fox and all that. And I was like, no, I'm gonna go on Fox.
Yeah,
and I did it, and it got me a book deal, and it actually reunited me with my aunt and uncle.
That's pretty cool.
Because they thought I was just still a crackhead.
What?
You know, like 5 years sober. So they saw me on the news.
They saw you on the Winners Network, obviously. Yeah. Like, damn, dude, he's fucking winning right now.
Yeah. Well, they don't, actually, they're kind of like, they don't like Fox, but like a relative was like, yo, Jared's on Fox. And they saw me and they're like, oh shit, he's probably not smoking crack.
Yeah, they have to watch it and be like, huh.
Yeah.
This is pretty good. I mean, it is that was a cool thing you did in the book where it's like, you know, here's my story. And then it's like, by the way, and I think you did this pretty good where it wasn't like, because you could have like went full court press, like here's my takes on policy, blah, blah, blah. It would just get like tossed in, peppered in. You'd be like, yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Your whole idea is that like, definitely we should help homeless people, but like, let's kind of build accountability in there. If you're just kind of like putting people up for free or just like showering people in resources and not dealing with the inner issue.
Yeah.
you're killing them because they're just going to keep getting high and die.
Yeah, it's like a house is burning down, and like instead of spraying it with water, you're like, here's like medicine to like deal with your burns.
Yeah,
you know, like we have to kind of address the key, like the foundational issue of addiction. And listen, there's a lot of homeless people that aren't addicted. Obviously, you know, some of them are just mentally ill.
Yeah,
permanently. A lot of those people that are mentally ill, like I was mentally ill. Like I was screaming in like a McDonald's dining area. Like, you know, I was like yelling at people and throwing shit.
That feel good.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to get up.
It kind of does, because when you're home, it's crazy because when you become homeless, you're like, I'm like jaywalking. It like starts with jaywalking. And then you're like, I'm going to like deliberately walk in front of cars.
Yeah, dude, I always wondered about that. So you start being like, fuck these cars, I'm going.
And then you're like, I'm going to litter. And then you're like, I'm going to like knock over a trash can. And it just like escalates. And it's like, I'm going to throw shit at people in a McDonald's. Whoa. And then it's like, I'm going to rob people.
Yeah, then you know, I might as well put all this energy to good use.
Yeah. And then, it does escalate because going to jail is like, it's basically like a sleepover. It's like, oh shit, I get to like chill for like 3 days. So going to jail is like not a punishment. It's like, oh shit, I'm going to get a pillow and like a shower.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'll throw shit at people.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to fuck this lady up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a guy recently, whatchamacallit? Jesus Christ, I'm blanking on where I was. This is bad. I was in Portland, Oregon, and they have a lot of homeless people there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This weekend, and there was this guy. Me and Nate Marshall were walking, and this guy, he was kind of drunk. He was like, "Oh, what are you guys, homies?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, we are." And I was like, "Maybe he's just being friendly." I couldn't really tell. And then I come back, and he was just getting in homeless people's faces and being like, "What's up, dude?" And like shoulder bumping him. I'm like, "Dude, you're gonna get fucking stabbed, dude." I was waiting for it. I'm like, "Please, fucking bash this guy's head in with it." That was the thing too. Like I didn't realize how hard everyone was rumbling in this. I mean, obviously I knew there's like bad stuff going on, but you're saying like you'd sleep with like a pipe between your legs. People would come in your setup and you got to just fucking, that shit. I was like, I mean, it makes sense obviously, but I was always like, I think people are maybe just chilling a little more peaceful.
No, people are pretty angry.
Yeah.
Because you have nothing to lose. When you have nothing to lose, you're willing to lose your life because your life isn't worth that much. So, and I'm like, you know, I'm like not big. I'm like a white guy. I like look, you know, I look the way I look, but, you know, I looked like I was like 16 until I was like 30.
Yeah.
You know, so I looked like a kid. And,
same. And then I looked like I was 75 very fast. I skipped like three decades of aging. And now I went from like looking like I was like 27 to looking like I was like 55.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to hitting that relatively soon. But so like I looked like a bitch basically. I mean, I'm not hard, you know, so people tried to fuck with me. And like, you know, being white on Skid Row is unlike everything else in life, it's a detriment.
Yeah, true.
So, you know, it wasn't that cool. But people were almost like flabbergasted. They're like, what is this like suburban white boy? They were like kind of respected it.
Yeah.
They were like, holy fuck, man, this like clean cut white kid is like doing it on Skid Row. So,
and it was probably came in handy. Like I was reading that, like that's kind of nice when you're able to like use your kind of appearance to, it just helped you.
Yeah. Like I went to college, I can talk. So like people were like, oh shit, we could keep this kid around and like talk to the police for us or whatever. And I was really good at stealing because of it. Yeah. You know, if you're like a Mexican guy with tattoos all over your face, it's not easy to like go steal shit.
Yeah. Trying to lift toothpaste is not easy.
Yeah, yeah. At least 10 years ago.
True. Yeah, now it's all locked up, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of fucked everything up. Like I was doing it back in the day when they weren't locking everything up and I was like pretty good. I had like a pretty good system and I made more money than I do now, like working a job. Yeah,
you were saying when you were shoplifting, it was a couple thousand like a day pretty much?
No, like a couple thousand a week untaxed.
Yeah.
You know,
sweet.
So like the same that you would make at like a job now.
Same. It's a shame you missed the self-checkout.
I know.
I had no excuse. I was of a relatively sober mind and I pillaged those things pretty hard in the beginning. Yeah. And it wasn't even for like a lust for stuff. I was just kind of like, it was more of like a game where I'd be like, is anyone here actually paying attention to this? Yeah. And it turned out, no, not really at all.
No.
But yeah, I've since obviously given that up. But I remember that part of the book where we had a guy who would serve as decoy and then you would just slip into the side and just, because he was, I guess everyone was like, oh, this motherfucker is going to come in here and steal, and you could just clean out and move.
Yeah. Yeah, Richie. I mean, his real name was Ryden. I'll just say it, I guess. But Ryden was like known across LA County as like a top shoplifter. So he'd go in first. All the staff would be like, fucking Ryden's here. They would like, you know, they'd like all huddle around Ryden, and then I'd sneak in with 2 like Trader Joe's like permanent shopping bags tucked in my pants and just like dump shit into my bags.
Damn, then you'd probably be looking pretty hippie when you went out there though.
I know. I look like a good Samaritan just chopping.
Wait, so you had them in your pants and you popped them out?
Popped them out.
And then carried?
Yeah, just carried 2 bags. And I linked up with this like, what do you call it? Like a fence. And I got him to start buying makeup. So I just like pour makeup into my bag, and he'd give me like $2.75 per little eyelash thing or whatever. And yeah, I just started making a ton of money.
Damn.
And still going to sleep every night with $0.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. That was the craziest thing. So for you, it was like, you know, and again, in the book you kind of detail it, but you start out, you know, it's pretty like regular kind of stuff. But you, in terms of the drug use, it wasn't so much of like, oh, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. You just describe having this just like constant feeling of like, this is wrong, shit's fucked up.
Yeah.
Then it was like, I need to stay drunk all the time. And it was the thing you talk about, I really like, is just how like the kind of the mental gymnastics of like, look, here's my line. I'm good on this side of the line. If I cross this line, then it's a problem. Then you cross the line, you're like, look, no, the line's over here. And if I cross over here, then I'm fucked. Then eventually it's like, God damn it.
Yeah. There's just constant, and obviously the end line is like, I'm going to have sex with a guy for money. You know, that's like the last line. And fortunately I did not cross that line. I know people don't believe that, but
why? Why do people not believe that? What the fuck, dude?
It's just all my high school friends are like, we know you did it. You know, and I swear I didn't. I mean, one time I let a guy tickle my feet for $100.
Who wouldn't, dude? That's fair.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah,
you know?
that's fair.
and he actually was like a kind of a camcorder guy, so like he filmed it.
Oh, no.
And I've hit him up on Gmail. This was like 2011, so I've recently hit him up on Gmail, and I'm like, yo, I know you've tickled a lot of feet, but like, do you remember me? Like, I'd like to see that footage. And he's like,
I'll give you $100. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, what size foot were you? Like, I got to remember. And he's like, I don't know, man, I've tickled too many feet. You know? But he like tied me up in a bed, like with those like, you know, those like kinky tie up things that have like quick release. It's like Safe Play or whatever.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah. So like, it was like kind of
me and my
like,
wife, no, there's no Safe Play.
But he was cool. He went to UC Berkeley. He was like a small Asian man.
Nice.
We talked to UC, you know, I went to UC Santa Cruz, so we had our little rivalry. We talked school, and then he tickled me.
Was he? What was his deal? Was he kind of like
just a sexual pervert?
He was just a sexual pervert. He was kind of otherwise just chilling, normal job. He's like, I'm gonna tickle these guys.
Oh yeah, I think he had like a good job, but he was just like, I'm really into tickling. I'm really into tickling feet specifically, and I was like, well, I'm like a meth head, so my feet do not look good. You know, and I was like, can I keep socks on? And he was like, no, you got to take the socks off. So I took the socks off, and he was like, put the socks back on.
Your feet were thrashed.
Yeah. And then he was like tickling my feet, and he was like, and I wasn't like, eventually you stop laughing. It stops becoming ticklish. And he was like, you have to, like, that's how you get paid. Like, you have to laugh. So that was weird.
You had to fake it?
I had to fake it. I faked it. Yeah. So that was really like and that was pretty innocent, honestly. So I crossed way worse lines in terms of like, you know, damage I did to other people and things like that I don't feel good about. But generally I had a pretty good time. You know, I started out as a heroin addict, and that was pretty manageable and boring. You just kind of get sleepy. But then I moved to methamphetamine, and that's when things kind of
the way you did that was kind of cool. It wasn't a bad idea, but like how you're saying you were delivering heroin for a guy, and they basically forced you like, bro, I know you're going to be nodding out and shit. Hit some meth. Get out there.
Yeah. I kind of worked for this guy that was like working under the cartel, and he would pay me to deliver heroin. And heroin addicts, you know, as you see outside, they're sleepy. You know, they're pretty sleepy. So he was like, I can't trust that you drive and do heroin. You're going to crash. You're going to get arrested. So you actually, as a prerequisite for the job, you have to start doing meth. And that was a line, you know, and I was like, well, it's part of my job details. Like, obviously I'm going to do that.
Being responsible.
Yeah. And meth, I like fell in love with meth.
Yeah,
I'm a company man. And I started doing meth, and that, like, I went from like a homeless student. I mean, a drug addict student, like pretty manageable, had a girlfriend, all that, like, to like within 3 weeks, like screaming at people, homeless, like lost my place to live, dropped out of school, crashed my car. Lost the car. Yeah, meth like really quickly took me down, and
that kind of sent you into orbit, basically.
Yeah, and I like lost my mind, and you know, there's a lot of fun to be had like in meth psychosis and all that, but it does become pretty unmanageable. And eventually, I used crack cocaine to quit meth. So I kind of fell in love with crack
because that got you off the meth. Yeah, and I've heard vice versa. I've heard of people using meth to get off the crack.
A lot of people actually do that. Yeah, so if you go to Skid Row, it's like full of like OG crackheads that switch to meth.
And they're kind of like Are they tame or are they kind of out of it?
Well, meth is cheaper, but I think meth is like, you can stay up for 6 days on meth and like really start doing some damage, like, really thinking that you're talking to demons and all that. And you get into this like really dark psychosis, whereas crack is very simple. It's just like you think it's like you're just paranoid about the police. So like it actually, and it's very like short, it's like short bursts of this paranoia that's actually pretty fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. So like you smoke crack and you think like the FBI is after you, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's better than demons. I'd rather keep it to this realm.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Open myself up to like, interdimensional fucking beings and shit.
And you like tell yourself you're like, I'm going to smoke this crack. Like, obviously the CIA is not after me. Obviously the FBI is not after me. Like, I'm just I'm a homeless crackhead. And then every single time then you smoke crack and you're like immediately hiding behind a dumpster and you're like, there's a helicopter. And they're like, I stole some makeup. They're fucking after. I'm on like America's Most Wanted.
I'm on the bulletin board. They got my picture. Board, the fucking yarn connected me to all the other dudes. Yeah, that is kind of terrifying. It was weird too when you said you were able to like eventually with meth realize like with like, when you're bugging out on weed, like none of this is real. But like, I guess obviously it's way deeper, but to realize like this is just a meth delusion. And you were able to like kind of ride that out a little bit, which sounds fucking crazy.
Yeah. Well, when you first start doing it, you have a lot of auditory hallucinations. So you actually hear like your friends so you're like, holy shit, my friends are in the house. Like they're in the next room. Then you start texting your friend. I would text my friends and be like, yo, I hear you talking shit, and they're like, I'm 100 miles away right now.
And you're like, yeah, right. Dude.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
And then, but the auditory hallucinations are so, they're just so insane that eventually you are like, okay, like my friends are not in the next room. My family is not in the next room. And you sort of tame the beast at that point. And then it just turns into like mental hallucinations, which are more creative and more fun.
Okay. Once you get over the paranoia, you're like, actually, yeah, let's explore some of these other ideas.
Yeah. But it's a terrible drug. I don't recommend anyone, It's pretty hard to like functionally use meth.
Yeah, I can
and like keep your job.
Unless you're a Nazi soldier.
Yeah, or a gay guy. Gay guys seem to be able to do
I've
it
heard
pretty
that,
well.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. What the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. I used to like chill with these gay dudes in San Francisco, and they were like flight attendants and like had jobs. Yeah.
Do you think they were like microdosing, or they were blazing?
No, I think they were using meth pretty hard. Well, you use meth for like a long weekend. It works really well with jobs that are like 3 days on, 4 days off.
That makes sense. You can just crash for like 3 days.
And then they'd use GHB to like come down. And I like GHB, but they were like, do not pass out around us. They were like, someone could come in, like
they let you know.
They were like, that's on you, buddy.
Yeah, true.
So I'd use GHB and be like, it's time for me to go, guys.
Out.
Yeah, like this is getting too wild in here. And
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not to sound like, ridiculous. I could see that. If you're like a gay guy and you're just kind of methed up, people are like, he's a little sassy today.
Yeah.
Sassy. It might just take your sass to the next level.
Well, they were my friends, but they were like, we have other friends that like we can't, they might come in here and who knows, you're passed out. Like who knows what happens, so.
Fair.
They're like looking out for me.
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like, partying on meth, that's like.
Yeah, if you're partying on meth with a bunch of gay guys in San Francisco, it's kind of on you.
Yeah.
If something like that happens.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. Especially if it's like, if it's already like, were they like into like, obviously they're probably doing like the chemsex thing and all that.
Yeah, heavy into chemsex. That's basically,
Can't pass out at a chemsex orgy, dude.
No, you cannot pass out.
I would say that's on you. Traditionally, I'd be like, well, people should conduct themselves in a proper manner. But if you're just like, I'm going to go to bed right now, a little sleepy. HB's kicking my ass. I'm about to pass out, guys. You do you. I'm going to just sleep here on my belly. Don't bother me. I'm such a pussy with substances. I took melatonin for the first time recently because I'm trying to like get my sleep, which I've had some success getting my sleep schedule under like wraps with like traveling and all this stuff. So I've started taking melatonin. I'm such a pussy with substances. Like even that 3 milligrams of melatonin, I'm like, I take it. I'm just laying there reading a book. I'm like, it's not even working. So I'm just reading. All of a sudden I like put my book down. I'm like, oh fuck, my arms are so heavy. I was like, oh no. I just curled next to my wife, like, help me. I don't like, I was like the opposite. Like if anything goes into my body, I'm like, what's this? What's happening? What's it? But I do understand you get to the point where you go, I don't give a fuck. You're just, I do get that too. If things are going wrong and things are, you're just like, I don't give a fuck.
Well,
I need to exit. The what?
You build a tolerance to like physically, but you also build a tolerance mentally. You're like, I want to check out. You know? So like I was like, by the end I was shooting heroin, cocaine, and Klonopin at the same time.
Damn.
Which is, I don't even know if shooting Klonopin works, but I was, I was shooting Klonopin.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it got into your bloodstream.
I think so. Yeah. It like, what do you call it? It like, it makes the heroin act heavier, you know, because you get such a high tolerance to heroin. And like the problem with heroin is like, you get really addicted to heroin to the point where your life gets really shitty and then you want to kill yourself, but it's like a catch-22 because like now you've become too physically addicted that it's hard to overdose on heroin to kill yourself, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You know, so that change, obviously with fentanyl, that's different.
Yeah.
You can kill yourself pretty easily with fentanyl.
Yeah. So you got out of it before like the big shit with like the, what's that shit called? Trank with like the big wounds. Have you seen that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I last got high in 2018, and I was right when fentanyl really started hitting. But I was in Florida at one point, and fentanyl sort of hit Florida first. So I have shot fentanyl. I don't like it. You know, I died. You know, I overdosed in some guy's car, and he like took me to the hospital, and like took everything out of my pockets and like dragged me out of his car and left me.
Jerk.
But they, you know, they Narcan me, and they were like, yeah, man, you were doing fentanyl. And I was like, I didn't even know what fentanyl was.
Yeesh.
And they told me. So then obviously I was like, I'm never doing that again. And then like 2 days later, I was like, I'm going to do that again. And fentanyl is.
So you died. You clinically.
I died. I died for like 4 minutes.
Dude, I have a friend who did that. He died like 3 times.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy because you're like dead, and then they Narcan you and you feel like you're underwater and someone's like pulling you up from the ocean. You're like at the bottom of the ocean. You can't breathe. You're like trying to breathe. And then they like pull you out, then you just pop out of the ocean, and then you're just in a hospital and people are like looking at you.
And I heard you're pretty agitated too, because like
it
all
pissed.
wears off.
It
right
all
away.
wears off. You're fucking pissed, and they like don't want to help you because I'm like, can I use a phone? The guy took my phone. They're like, can you use a phone? Like, get the fuck
you're
out
right
of
on the beat. You're like, bro, I need to talk to my boy. He owes me $40. You're like, lay down, dude. You're dead.
Yes, and they cut my shirt open, so I had like they like let me go with a gown in Miami, and I was just like walking around Miami with a gown and like no phone. And I called my dad. I finally called my dad, and he was just like, man, you got to go to jail. Like jail would help you right now.
Yeah.
You know?
So what'd you do?
I think I just called some other people and eventually, you know, I got picked up, but I just kept using fentanyl, but fentanyl is like very debilitating. Like, you know, I would do fentanyl and like, I had like a 2-week run on fentanyl, and I'd like, you do fentanyl and you just wake up 12 hours later in like a different neighborhood, and you know, it's really fucked up. Whereas heroin, you can like I used to do construction on heroin. Like you can maintain it. I used like operating heavy machinery and shit.
Yeah.
Whereas with fentanyl, I couldn't even make it back to my halfway house. So like the one rule at my halfway house was like, you just have to show up before midnight and you don't get kicked out. And I got kicked out. Like I couldn't even drive a car. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've worked with guys on heroin before. It's not like ideal, obviously, but you know,
it's not ideal,
they can get the job done.
Yeah, my dad did it for like 30 years.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, he did fine until he started smoking crack, and then, you know, crack is a different beast.
Yeah, that's what this guy, I would ride around with him all the time in his truck, and he would try to literally like get me to do heroin. He'd be like, bro, you gotta. And my other friend explained it to me that it's really one of those things where when you start doing heroin, you start to evangelize it because you want people underneath you, so then you can start selling to them. Yeah, but we work together all the time. He'd be like, bro, man, you'd be having such a fun time. And I'm like, it's like noon. He's just sweating profusely driving around. I'm like, man, I think I'm right. He's like, dude, you can eat. Like, you're not going to lose your appetite. You'll just party. You'll have it. It'll be awesome. I'm like, and meanwhile, I like literally picked him up from his house or like met him at his house. He was actually the one driving, which is funny enough. But it was just like him, his babes just on a mattress on the ground. He was just like, she was active in the family business, obviously. She was just like selling herself. Yeah. So all this stuff's being proposed to me. He's like, bro, I'm telling you, it's a good time. I was like, I'm good, man.
I mean, it is a good time when you're on heroin.
Yeah.
And then you wake, and then the heroin wears off, and it's like the worst time.
Yeah, true.
You know? And then your life becomes this every day. It's like you do heroin, and you're like, I have 12 hours until I'm having diarrhea, and like really sick from heroin.
So like, that's not far off. No,
exactly. But it's like this.
Must be putting heroin on the food in the airports, dude. I think I have the same thing. I think I might be dosing me right now.
But it's like a full-time job, and it's just it's actually kind of cool because you like have this one singular goal.
Yeah.
And it's like I just have to like steal shit and get heroin, and then it's like I have to steal shit and get heroin again, and then the next thing you know, like 6 months have passed, and
whoa,
you know, but the second something doesn't link up, and you like, you know, you show up at the CVS and someone already stole all the shit, and you're getting dope sick and everything.
Spaz.
Because once you get too far into dope sickness, you're too dope sick to hustle up money. And it's like this, it's a crazy like treadmill that you have to just run every day.
Yeah. That's why they say a lot of people who get clean do like very, very well in sales and all. Like they get clean and they hit sales jobs and they just crush it.
Yeah, that's a big thing in Florida. Like, get off heroin, start selling like scam vacations to Canadians or something.
Yeah, that was my someone I know was down there getting clean in Florida, and he was like, "If you ever get a bill collector or anything, just be like, how's it going, man? You clean?"
Yeah,
he
how
said
many days you got?
Yeah, how many days you got? He said a lot of people that call you up on like telemarketing or just down in Florida, like outside of rehab.
I did it. Yeah, my dad got sober in Florida, so I went out to Florida and lived in a halfway house with him, and I tried doing the sales job. I left both times at like noon.
Yeah,
I like labor. I like doing labor.
Telemarketing is crazy. I've tried my hand at it as well, and it's I can't explain. It's just the weirdest fucking job. You're just in this little thing, and like, dude, managers are listening in on your call. I would be intensely nervous, like, oh, hey, just like, dude, I know there's a guy listening. I'm like, fuck.
And they give you a script, and it's like, I know how to talk. Like, let me just talk to this guy. And they're like, no, you got to read. And they're like listening on your headset, and they're like, read the fucking script. Yeah, like, I wrote the script. Just read the script.
Scripts are so bad, dude. So how do they not know that it's like the worst possible thing?
Yeah, but there's guys that are just making like $5,000 a week doing it.
I know.
You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, that is. There were the office big dogs when I did like tech, cyber. I don't know what it was. It was like selling like servers and shit. Yeah. And there were guys that were absolutely coining it in there.
Yeah.
They could sit there and like hold it, like out of a movie, they'd like hold a ball and be like, let me tell you about the new Pentium 4. And I was like, fuck, dude.
Yeah. I prefer getting paid like $9 an hour and just like doing demo. Yeah. With like no one that speaks English.
Yeah, that is nice actually.
Yeah.
Holy crap, guys. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. What's something you'd love to learn? As an adult, do you make time to learn new things as often as you'd like? Or was that lost in childhood? Kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. What's something you'd like to learn? Gardening? A new language? Or maybe how to finally beat your best friend in bowling? Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back-to-school era can come at any age. And I agree, I think the copy's a little trite, but I do agree. I think you should always seek to expand your horizons. And again, I know guys have a big thing against it. I do think talking to someone, finding a therapist can get you out of your own personal, the limitations of your social network and maybe expose you to some ideas you would never come across. I don't know. I think it's a good idea. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/MSSP today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/MSSP. Oh my God, guys, Lucy is made for your nicotine routine and delivered straight to your door. It's 100% pure nicotine and always tobacco-free. Lucy isn't like every other nicotine pouch company that's owned by Big Tobacco. They're like the mom and pop shop of pouches. Pouches come in a variety of strengths from 4 milligrams all the way up to 12 milligrams. Lucy offers a unique variety of flavors including apple ice, wintergreen, mango, and espresso. If you're not a pouch person, Lucy gum is available in 2 milligrams, 4 milligrams, or 6 milligrams. What else do I need to say? It's fantastic. I take fucking 600 milligrams every day. Let's level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/drenched and use promo code DRENCHED to get 20% off your first order. Lucy offers free shipping and has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. That's lucy.co and use code DRENCHED to get 20% off and always free shipping. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age and every order is age verified. So if you're thinking about picking up young chicks with Lucy products, don't do it. They're only for grown-up responsible adults over the age of 18. Warning, this product contains nicotine, and nicotine is an addictive chemical. Oh, wow. Guys, Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and just watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. I mean, I can't say anything more about this. I love getting in on the fantasy sports action daily with Prize Picks. Just me against the numbers. That's what I want. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code DRENCHED and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code DRENCHED on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Now let's get back to the show after a quick announcement. Hey guys, really quick, I have a couple of shows coming up. I'd love to see you there. I'll be in Philly this weekend, but that's gone. Comedy Connection, East Providence, Rhode Island. That is September 12th to the September 14th. Please go. I think that'll sell out, but let's have fun there. Cleveland, Ohio. I'll be at the Hilarities Comedy Club from October 10th to October 12th. And then Boston, I'll be at the Wilbur, 10/18, one night only, 2 shows. Come on, that's poised to sell out any minute now. Any day now, really. Also, Milwaukee, I'll be at the Improv, 10/24 to 10/26. And these ones are big. Guys, please come to these ones, God damn it. Please, Washington, D.C. area, Virginia. I'll be at the Capital One Hall in Tysons, Virginia on November 15th. And then the next day, I'll be at the New York Comedy Festival, Town Hall, New York City, the state of New York, New York City, New York. That's 11/16. Guys, please come. Then I'll have a bunch of other dates coming up. Love you. Bye.
It does have like a freeing effect on the mind when you're doing that. When you're just knocking down walls, carrying heavy stuff. At the end of the day, you're tired. You lay down.
Yeah, that's what I did in Florida. Like I just did like grunt manual labor with like Cubans and Nicaraguans, and this one guy had a tool chest that said "Work will set you free," which is what Auschwitz said on Auschwitz. I don't think he was aware of that, but I was like, damn, work does set you free.
True.
You know? And I don't know, it sets you. I recommend if you're trying to get off opiates or drugs, like just go do manual labor. I mean, it really helped me.
Yeah, I could see that.
Know, I don't do it anymore, but fuck, I mean, it just makes the clock spin. You're just trying to make the clock spin at first, you know.
Yeah, to get time.
Get through the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that was another thing too. I found kind of striking when you were like, you would get clean, you'd be like, all right, everything's going well. Then there'd be a part of your brain where like, I'm doing heroin. Yeah, I'm definitely doing it again. It's just a matter of time, and be like, all right, I'm gonna make it to this city. I'm not gonna stop. Like, I'm gonna stop over here.
Yeah,
that's the weirdest part of the whole thing when it's like, it's like a hard thing for people to wrap their head around, because it's like you can have the experience of things going like as south as possible, you know, and like your immediate relationships get thrown off, all this stuff. You get clean. And the thing that sucks about addiction is that thing where you're like, I don't want to do this, but there's genuinely a part of you that's just like, you're like, oh, fuck, whatever.
Yeah, you can't control it.
It's hard to explain to anybody else, and it's such a weird part of ourselves that people don't really know what to do with. Like even like experts are like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're following your own will and you're a drug addict, you are going to do heroin, whether it takes you 2 days or a week or 30 days, 5 years. Like you're just gonna do heroin, and you know, your life, you know, my life would get pretty good. I'd like buy like a $1,200 car and like get a little job and then be like, okay, I'm moving. You know, I drove from Florida to Oakland one time and like got my apartment set up and everything. And then I was like, I'm going to fucking stay clean. And then I hit like New Orleans and I was like, I'm going to go check out, you know, what's going on. And you're like, I wonder if like you like talk to a kid at a gas station. You're like, is there heroin here? Like just out of curiosity, you know? And then,
there better not be any heroin here, is there?
But I mean, obviously, this, you know, I know this is a Catholic podcast. You know, I got spiritual. You know, so
that's good. Yeah. I've heard that is for real the thing that really helps, man.
Yeah, and people don't want to hear that shit. But sorry, like that's what, you know, that's what helped me. And it's not like it's a non-denominational thing, but like I just like had to give it up, you know, and yeah, man, I believe in God and don't want to get weird or anything about God or anything, but like, you know, I believe in something. You have to believe in something bigger than yourself, is like watching over you, and you have to kind of accept. It's actually like a humility thing. It's like when I'm in charge and I make decisions, like I end up in a bathtub in Chinatown, like missing my toe or some shit, and like a needle in my arm, and like that is where I literally end up. Yeah. And so I can't make decisions. Like
so you just kind of like try to align your will with God's will. And listen, man, I'm sitting across the table from Matt McCusker right now. And like, I was literally a homeless guy on Skid Row, you know, so like, you know, pretty obviously, sick, yeah, it's
I'm equally as pumped. Like, dude, it's so fucking cool. I've never got one of these guys.
No, I figure like a lot of people, you know, we see these guys, like people want to hear these guys, you know, I'm a heroin guy. Like I'm a guy like, you know, so
that is crazy if you think about it though. No, dude, if you were to sit there, you drive past Skid Row and you're like, oh, there's a fucking published author, right? You know, it's like, you don't think of it at all.
Yeah.
And it is crazy. And I do think it is regrettable that's just the taboo of our time. Religion, taboo of our time.
Yeah.
Like back in the Victorian times, you couldn't talk about sex. You could talk about religion. Now you can be like, you know, whatever.
You can be like, my daughter does OnlyFans. I'm very proud of her.
Yeah.
You know? Like you can't talk about
I think their health teacher now in school actually shows their dick to the class. I don't know how they do. But it's like, it's so weird. And if you bring up religion, it's like...
Yeah, you can't do it.
I do think that's how AA was founded. It was, I think the guy, Bill was the dude's name.
Yeah, Bill.
He actually met with Carl Jung back when, you know, whatever. And Carl Jung was the guy who was like, bro, if you don't come up with some sort of spiritual connection or come up with some sort of a connection to, you know, a reality beyond yourself or whatever, a transpersonal reality, you're doomed. Yeah. It's like if you hit, you know, if you're over 40, that was Carl Jung's big thing. It's like if you hit 40 and you don't come up with some worldview that doesn't have you at the absolute center of the universe, if you can somehow like shift it up to where there's actually something way beyond yourself and kind of humble yourself.
Yeah.
He's like, the rest of your life will be way easier. If you don't, it's just all going to fall apart and you're going to go, oh shit.
Yeah, that's like the key for everybody. I mean, especially in the, you know, it works for drug addicts. I think it would work for everybody.
It does. I genuinely think it does.
Yeah.
I had a similar thing. Because I grew up Catholic, and you know it was like you get out and you're like, church is bullshit. It's not the real body of Christ. They figured it out, and, you know, and all of a sudden your life starts to fall apart, and like, you know, it can be bigger or lesser ways, and you're like, same thing. You're like, I've been in charge of the program here. Results are less than spectacular. Yeah. Let me try to reorient myself, as you know, again, because it reorients you more towards like service rather than like trying to self-aggrandize and blah blah blah, and right now I'm doing a project where I'm just studying a bunch of autobiographies and I'm trying to figure out like if there is, I guess, I don't know what to call it. I guess it would be like circumstantial proof or whatever, just like anecdotal of like worldviews where it's like, you know, me at the center of the world. They call it, it's like express self is like a type of value system where it's like, I get what I want at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you know, I'm the boss. And there's a lot of people, that's the value system. Then there's the sacrifice self value system, which is like, there's something greater than me. I have to live by, you know, some sort of rules that I don't necessarily set. And I'm trying to like look at all these autobiographies and try to see like, all right, who lives as like more of an express self type? Who lives as a sacrifice self? And then after reading hopefully like 50 or 100 autobiographies, being like, all right, here's how these ended up basically. And everyone probably has like a bit of a mix.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's kind of crazy how that is be a thing where it's like, I don't want to get weird, but I believe in God. And it's like, it's not that weird. People have been doing it since the beginning of like human consciousness.
Yeah.
So, and what you're saying, people get worried too. It's like, oh man, like, you know, I don't want to come off as like a religious nut. Cause it is, I get it. People can really hammer that home to the point where it's like, all right, but yeah, I'm glad for you. I think that's a good thing. And it's, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, it's hard to monetize, where it's like, well, you know, it's easier to set up like, well, we got to figure out with like pills, this, that, and this. It's like, well, you can also have a spiritual experience. And they're like, all right. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's like a big conspiracy, but like, well, it's just an unfortunate thing of our time when it's such a simple. So I mean, it's not a simple solution, obviously, but it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I think it's regrettable that people are so like, oh, when you're, you know, I can say it's like one of those things that can help your life so tremendously if you find something, you know, tailored for yourself. You don't have to like sever off your rational mind. You just have to like, you know, maybe pluck a little chunk out of it. Yeah. And just kind of keep the rest.
And it like, you know, it gives you community. It gives you a sense of like, there's a bigger thing going on than just what's in my head and like what I think this person thinks about me at the office. And like, you know, drug addicts are the most like self-obsessive, selfish people, really. I mean, I know that sounds, you know, that's not like a kind thing to say about these people that are out on the streets, but like I was out on the streets and like all you give a fuck about is yourself. And whenever I only give a fuck about myself, I end up laying in the gutter. I mean, that's just what happens. So like, And I know that's really hard to say as a guy that like, I literally wrote a book about my life, like how self-obsessive could you get? I mean, that's as self-obsessive as you can get, really. But
only great men write autobiographies, so don't.
Yeah, but you know, if you read the book, it's basically me writing about how retarded I am. Yeah, so it's like, sure, it's about me, but it's about how much of a piece of shit I am, really. So hopefully that like, there's a sense of humility around it, you know.
No, I think you did a great job, and it really is. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, whether it's drug addiction or just like, you know, say you're not addicted to drugs, that same line of thought is just not as pronounced, because it's like if you're addicted to heroin and meth, it's like, yeah, you're crashing your car, you're going to jail. So like everyone's easily like, yep, you're fucking up. But if you're running like a similar, you know, I think most people are very, very it's just the way we're designed. It's not like a you know, value or like a character flaw. It's just the way we're kind of designed that I think kind of slowly erodes through a series of repeated and larger failures in life, where it's like, you know, say you're like, I didn't do like heroin or meth or anything, but I've had definitely decisions blow up in my face that weren't like my whole family, like, God damn, that guy needs to go away for a while. But it was enough to be like, for me to be like, well, that fucking all went up in smoke. And you're like, God damn it. And you're like, you know, because there's that big master of the universe syndrome where you're like, I got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like when I would like sell weed and all this stuff, I would be like smoking weed all day, driving around with like 30 pounds of weed in my trunk. Like, dude, I'm the master of the fucking, and just like a bunch of my relationships fell apart. And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of a fucking loser. I thought I was a man.
Yeah.
So that can happen, man, when you're just kind of like, dude, I don't have to listen to anybody. I don't have to do anything anyone says. And it's like, when you're young, it's very intoxicating to be in that. And then you're like, oh, there's this whole other part of life that has to go. And like, you know, even if you don't want a family, it's like being involved in your community, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
If you get kind of like self-insulated, it's easy to have like the wheels come off. And it is a funny thing when you're like, I'm the boss here. And it's just like your life just dilapidates and you're like, fuck.
Yeah. And every problem like, this is a big thing. Like, you know, the guy that's like 45 that just like fucks his life up every year and it's always like someone else's fault.
Yeah.
So like, that's a big thing about addiction. And, where it's like you're just constantly blaming everyone. You're at the center of the universe and you're just blaming everyone around you for like all your problems. So like, that's another thing with spirituality is like, I don't know, it just helped me like take like almost like an overhead view of my life and just be like, hold on, you're like the common denominator of all this shit. Like potentially you are the cause of these problems. Like you are responsible for these problems. And when you kind of like are like, okay, well, it just goes back to like, okay, well then I'm not running the show. I'm going to let someone else run the show. And like, you know, since I was like a laborer on and off, you know, either I was homeless or I was like in a halfway house doing like construction for $9 an hour. And, you know, the second I kind of like started changing my life and living this way and having some faith, you know, like I have a career, I have my family back, I'm fucking doing a podcast. Like, I mean, it just, you know, life really just starts to take off. And right when I finally admitted, like, you are the piece of shit that is causing all these problems, and like you have to have like a complete psychic change. And you know, I don't think, you know, a lot of people that are hardcore drug addicts, like, if they don't have that psychic change, like it's not really if, it's like, when are you going to go back to that life?
Yeah,
you know, you got to change.
The blame's a big one. I've noticed that with people where they're like, dude, he's a fuckhead, and you're like, that's your problem right now? This dude's being a dickhead to you? Like, I could name 25 other things, dude. Yeah.
Or like blaming the police. Like I was so pissed at the police set me up. I sold drugs to an undercover cop and like I got a felony and like I had to go to jail, and it like kind of fucked like the next couple of years of my life up, and I was so fucking pissed at the police. And then I got sober and I like kind of changed everything. And I was like, you sold drugs to you stole Tylenol from a CVS, said they were Norcos, sold them to a cop. Yeah. Like, you're retarded. You shouldn't have done that.
Kind of bunky. I always thought if you sell fake drugs, you don't get in as much trouble though.
I think probably, but I was like, on hair, I was like, get me out of here. Like, I'll plead anything. Like, just get me out of here. And like, I had a public defender that was probably on methadone, and he was like, yo, you're fucked, man. Like, because like a lot of people, like drug addicts that have like rich family or like family that will support them, like, we'll get them that lawyer, and which almost just kicks the can down the road. You know? So like, I called my dad, and he was like, yo, stay in jail. Like, do whatever. I was like, can you get me a lawyer? And he was like, fuck no, I'm not getting a lawyer. And
it'll be good for you to just get like, you need to be contained.
Yeah. And then actually, like, when I became homeless, like, I was homeless, I did like a year run on Skid Row, and I would like call my dad, and he was like, go to fucking jail. Like, do whatever you can to go to jail. Like, you need to go to, like, my dad went to jail. That's how he like finally got sober. So I got so blessed, and, you know, got to fucking go to jail. But jail did not like get me sober. Jail like physically removed me from heroin. I never got physically addicted to heroin ever again. but I still like would relapse for like a few days here and there. And so like jail is not the ultimate solution, but it was like a kick in the ass and sort of like scared the fuck out of me. Like, you know, I was around a lot of people where I was like, damn, you're going to be like a jail guy. Yeah. You're going to be like a prison guy. And like, can you be a prison guy? Like, you're not that big. You're not that tough. Like, can you do it?
How bad does it hurt in prison of just like no babes at all? That's the thing that would really fuck me up, dude. Just zero babes.
I was on heroin.
Sorry, it's a fair question.
Well,
you weren't really thinking about the babes.
Well, I was on heroin for so long. So when you're on heroin, you have like you're like asexual, like completely. And then when you come off heroin, you're like, you like come in your pants like immediately.
Really?
Like if someone like blows in your direction, like so like you get like ultra horny.
Oh no.
Which is like jail's like the worst place to be ultra horny. So I mean it's fucking weird, man. It's like there's like a female guard once in a while that comes in, you can smell her, and everyone's like smelling, you know, everyone's like puts their nose up and like and then people get weird. People start to get like really weird where they're like, it's like you're not allowed to horseplay in there. You're not allowed to do like any gay shit or like do any gay voices or anything like that or like fuck around. But there's guys that have that like twinkle in their eye.
That would kill me, bro. I can't be like, so fucking gay for you, bro.
Well, that's like the obviously white guy humor is like, let's pretend we're gay.
Yeah.
And like Mexicans run the jail. So they're just like, no gay shit. Like, you have to be like, the white guys are like, none of that gay shit. Like in front of, like, we got to impress the Mexicans, obviously. Like, like obviously we all want to like do the gay voice. Like we're in fucking jail with a bunch of guys. Like, but like the Mexicans will call us gay. Like we can't do that.
Yeah, it's trouble. Yeah.
And like obviously the black guys are like no gay. Like they're like number one. Like, you know, no gay shit
for sure.
And so it's really sucks for white guys in there.
You can't fuck around and pretend to be gay at all.
You can't fuck around and you can't you can't take the towel and like
I'm never speeding ever again. I never thought about that.
It's really hard on white guys in there, man.
It's so funny to have like some dude just covered in swastikas like, and lastly, we can't fuck around about gay stuff.
And it's like clearly, and then occasionally you do have like your all white meeting in the shower area where it's like all white guys and it's like you can let off some steam and like pretend you're gay for like 10 seconds. But it is funny because like the Mexicans just run everything and the white guys are allied with the Mexicans. So it's like we cannot if we lose this allyship, like we are fucked. So like we have to. So the Mexicans like, you guys got to work out every day for an hour. So it's every day. There's like white guys like half-assedly like doing jumping jacks and shit, and like making sure the Mexicans are like watching. You're like, I'm doing them.
Are they pumping iron pretty hard there in the jail?
No, but they're like lifting each other, which is kind of gay. You know, they're like.
For real? They lift each other?
You have to, if there's like a tiny Mexican guy, it's like, okay, obviously he's like for biceps, you know, and like you have to like use weird shit. You like get under the bunk bed and you're like, you can do like bench with like they'll get like two Mexican guys on the bunk bed and then you're like doing like, okay, throw another Mexican guy on there and you're like doing bench. Yeah.
You gotta squat Danny Trejo.
Exactly. Yeah. So you get really creative. You get like sometimes you get a trash bag, you fill it up with water. You can do like curls with them.
Yeah, I've heard. So what are like when the Mexican guy's being bicep curled? Does he have like a straight face? Like
because you can't be
like
gay.
Hard as fuck.
Yeah, you have to look super hard.
Being curled. Yeah. You got a fucking problem with me?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of like get on my back and like I'm gonna do squats.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot for a place where you're not allowed to pretend to be gay. There's like a lot of gay shit going on, and obviously like you're jerking off in a room with like 100 guys at some point, and you're not allowed to jerk off. But it's kind of don't ask, don't tell situation. So
like
you
be a gentleman about it. Don't be like,
fuck. Like a guy used to buy heroin from who I actually he came into the jail and I was like, what's up, man? And I was like, do you have any heroin? And he was like, no, I'm in jail, but he got caught jerking off. He was like a 7-year-old black dude, super cool guy, but they rolled him up. They were like, no jerking off. You know,
damn.
He did it. He tried to be polite. He did it at like 5 a.m., but like the early birds woke up and they caught him jerking off. So,
fuck, that sucks. I'd rather be caught by my parents 100 times than be in jail and have dudes like, you jerking off, motherfucker.
No, I did it. It's like the scariest. And obviously, you've jerked off before. You realize like, when you're a kid and like you're listening for your brothers and sisters and shit, and you're like, so this is like scarier because if someone hears you, like they could stab you,
Oh my God.
Not really. I mean, everyone knows like you got to do it. So you just do it in the middle of the night when you wake up and like no one really, but every night if you ever wake up, you hear like the jingle of like many men quietly masturbating.
It's like the roar of the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of like puts, it helps you sleep and everything.
That's crazy, dude. I never thought about that aspect of it. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I figured, I thought you could just like hang your sheets over your bed and be like, I'm about to jerk off, bro.
No, because there's like a man on your bunk, you know. So unless you have like an arrangement with him or something, you know, I don't listen. I'm not Mr. Prison. I'm not Mr. Jail. Like I've been to jail. Like it could be different in other dorms, but like,
no, it makes sense.
My dorm, like it was kind of like you can't even show your dick unless you're in the shower. Like if you got that was like an instant boob op. Like if your dick popped out. Like in the dorm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or if you like talked about dicks or just like, you know, but in the shower, obviously you're all naked, you're showering together, looking at everyone's dick. So
you can do whatever,
Yeah.
No talking dicks, bro.
No, you can't talk about dicks because.
What do you do with morning wood in jail?
Oh my God. It's just like, yeah, man, it's tough.
You gotta lay there.
You gotta just lay there, you know, and sometimes you gotta, it's like, cause I was in the school dorm where I got to go to school. So like, I guess I'm going to be late to school, you know, cause I can't have someone see my dick.
Yeah, if you had
my hard dick. Yeah. So,
bro, the fuck, bro.
Yeah. And
fucking boner away.
And then like meth will come in sometimes, which like makes everyone horny and gay, to be honest. Yeah. So like that becomes pretty tough because like people are tweaked out and, you know.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's that is tough. I do understand going there and getting clean, but yeah, I think you're right. There is an extra layer, and I feel like there could be. Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like there could be a more nuanced approach in jail once you have those guys as a captive audience. Like, how's the programming? Because I know there's like TC, like therapeutic community and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have that when you were in there?
Well, there's like AA meetings that come in, and we had like meditation classes. But you go there and like half the guys like think it's like gay. They're like, this is gay, and then they like make noises and shit while you're trying to meditate. And there's like, I was like trying to do
what kind of noises they make?
You know, like kumbaya and like mocking a lady came into jail to teach a bunch of guys that like might murder her yoga and like meditation, and like you're fucking being an asshole.
They're like, hey.
Yeah. So like, I mean, listen, there's a lot of low IQ people in jail.
True,
you know, but yeah, like obviously there could be a better approach. I was in there, probably 99% of the people I interacted with were either drug addicts or alcoholics. This is not a good system. This is not working. Like clearly this is a drug problem. Even like the violent criminals, it's like a lot of them were just on meth or like drunk and like beat the shit out of their wife or something. So, you know, there's like foundational issues of mostly like addiction and alcoholism. So like, yeah, we should address, and that doesn't mean like, hey, you shot a guy in the head and you were on meth. Like, for sure, we're going to put you into a therapeutic program. Like, you know, if you're violent, you got to probably do some time, but like, you know, there should be, I was really surprised because like one day they just let you out. And it's like, what the fuck do you think I'm going to do?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just out now. Like, and it's like right by Skid Row, and they let you out at like 2 a.m. And, you know, of course I'm going to go do heroin and smoke crack, you know? So like of course there's like, there has to be a better approach, but like, you know, there was like the 2020 stuff where like the decriminalization of crime basically. And like, that's not working, you know, just being like, we're just not going to send people to jail for like doing violent crime. Like that's not really a good approach. So
they're walking that back pretty hard right now. That's just, we're hitting like Bill Clinton era, like tough on crime Democrats are in our near future of being like,
Kamala at the DNC, they were like, Kamala was a tough prosecutor. And Kamala was a tough prosecutor. Like I'm from Oakland, California, like where she was, you know, she was the DA of San Francisco, and she was fucking too hard. I mean, she was like sending parents to jail for like, if their kids missed school and shit.
Damn.
Yeah, she was hard, man. But, clearly, like they're doing this like really quick 180, like this bitch will put you in jail, like vote for her. And like, I don't think it's going to work. I mean, we see what's going on. Like, you can't do that quick of a 180 on that shit. But
yeah. Well, no, she was chill. She was hard. I think then she was like, I'm going to chill as hell.
Yeah, then she got really chill, I guess. But
and now she might flip back and be like, look, I can slam the gavel.
I don't think she has like a creed or like a, you know, she just... Yeah. It was really hot at the time to like be super hard ass, you know, tough on crime, like, you know, the 90s, the Clinton, you know, the Clinton crime bill and all that. So she just was kind of going with the times, and then the times changed, you know, and then it goes to like, okay, I'm going to bail people out for like burning down Minneapolis. And shit, So I know you were in Portland. I actually moved to Portland in June 2020.
Oh, God.
Not a great month to move to Portland.
Yeah, what happened? Because I kept thinking the Chaz was in Portland. That's Seattle.
No, that was Seattle.
Kind of fucked me up. That was my whole 5 minutes open and coming out. I was like, I'm gonna make fun of these. I'm gonna make fun of these guys for having like lesbians take control of their city for 6 months.
Well, no, Chaz was like all of downtown Portland, and I had a black girlfriend.
Oh, so they set it up like that.
Yeah, and I went there with a black girlfriend. Not a weird month to move there with a black girlfriend to Portland, and her dad was like, you can't take my daughter to Port. Like, I don't want her around all those crazy white people burning down the city. It was a crazy time, but Portland's cool, man. Portland's cool.
I liked it. So you went there though, and it was like, because people now are like, "Damn, is it like still fucked up?" And I was like, "No,
it's
it was fine.
Yeah,
it was fine." But it was like, it was as intense as the Chaz there in 2020.
It was fucking intense. It was intense, like spiritually. Like everyone was just like, I was running into people. I like left because there was too many like guys that like dressed like security guards that were like, "I'm they them." Like, you got to call me they. And I was like, "You look like a dude, you know, like it's really hard for me to do that." There was just a lot of like, it was just really hard like that. And like, you know, I people were just not chill at all. And it went super far. And then now there's kind of like an overcorrection. And it's kind of chill now, I think people, and honestly, like you guys play a big role, and I'm not, you know, I
appreciate it.
I mean, like, I don't want to sound insane right now, but like, you know, podcasts like yours, like you guys kind of like brought about this like spiritual awakening of like, hey, we just have to like, we can say retarded, like we can, you know, we can be cool, you know. And I think comedy really is like saving America. Hey, this is going to sound stupid, but like,
no, I appreciate that, man. Well, the problem I saw with a lot of the stuff was like, you're at college, you're trying to get pussy.
Exactly.
You see, girls are like on this wild shit of like, you know, pretty much they're doing it for Instagram, and then it's like, you know, maybe they genuinely believe it. I shouldn't say like it's all fake, but it's like, they're doing a thing to appease some other force. This is a giant force in your life. And you're like, yeah, I'm a fucking they, them. And it's like, I'm trying to get some fucking pussy. I'm not trying to get frozen out or labeled as like, you're like a boomer or whatever the fuck people say.
No, everything comes down to I'm trying to get pussy. Like, because I've realized it in my head, like every decision I've ever, like if there was no pussy, like I wouldn't shower. Like I would shower once a week or something. Yeah. You know, like there's just every decision that a man makes really comes down to that. So like, yeah, there was just a lot of that. And there was a lot of like, even when like, you know, like when your guys, I was listening to your podcast and I was like, can I even tell people that I'm listening to this shit? Like after the Shane shit. And then now it's like to get pussy, you're like, I listen to the Matt and Shane podcast.
It's flipped. Girls are there's girls. The girlfriends have come and wives are coming to our shows.
Girlfriends have come, yeah.
They've opened their eyes. Yeah, there was a weird, that was a weird thing, I think. I don't know what it was, man. Because everyone thought they were doing like the right thing. They're like, yeah, I'm on the right side of history now. And it's like, the one thing I will give the like wild ass SJWs from, you know, they did all that stuff for a long time. They did, you know, and you can hate this, but they did raise a lot of issues into the public consciousness.
Yeah.
They kind of really like cracked everyone's head open with a hammer, and they're like, think about this. And everyone's like, fuck you guys. I'm not thinking about this. So they did do, you know, if you look back at like the last few years, it's like people are a lot more kind of like, the average person is way more forward thinking than they were, you know, in like the 90s and, you know, early 2000s. So they did put a lot of like, you know, things into people's heads, like, you know, like if you're black, it's like kind of weird and way different than being white. And be like, shut up and get a job, you bum. Like it's like that now. People have, I think, from all that stuff, have a more kind of nuanced approach to reality with like social issues.
Yeah,
but they're like, what they say to do about it, their solutions are so bad.
The solutions are really bad and really hurting the people they're trying to help.
Exactly.
But like, certainly, like, listen, it's really good that we're thinking about these things. And you know, I kind of already did because I'd been to jail and I was noticing patterns. I was like, damn, like, you know, I went to jail for like 5 days when I sold that Percocet to the cop or whatever. And my friend Toning Taylor, named Toning, very odd name, but I was in a midnight mission with him. He did like 5 years for like the same shit. And he was a black guy. And I was like, God damn. Like, and he was like, what? And he was a black Israelite dude.
Nice.
So he liked me because I'm half Jewish, and you know, we'd had Jew talk, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, he really opened my eyes to some shit. I was like, God damn, man. So
yeah, they get crushed. Black dudes get crushed in jail pretty hard.
Yeah. So I was so it was.
But it's harder for us once we get there because we can't do gay stuff.
It's
so
kind of the inverse of inverse of real life.
Yeah. No, dude, my friend was in a one of those like kind of, I don't know, I've never seen anything like this, but it wasn't. So it was technically that part of it was a halfway house. The other part were for like repeat offend people who violated parole. There's just this giant warehouse in Philly, and you would just go to this warehouse and just live in these rooms of like 40 dudes. And it was technically a jail, but it wasn't any like, you didn't go to like the penitentiary. It was just like this holding thing specifically for parole violators if they ever had to do like 6 months or something.
Yeah.
And he said it was run, the whole place was just run by like, there's like these black Muslim ladies in charge of it. And he was like, dude, for real, I don't want to cry racism, but he's like, this is so hard to be white in this place. Yeah. He's like, you could just like, I could bring him in clothes and stuff. I could bring him in anything really, cigarettes, all this stuff. I had to give it to like in a trash bag to this black Muslim lady. She would go through it, and he was like, dude, the drugs here are rampant because you can just stitch heroin into like the waistband of sweatpants And they're just running amok in here where it's like the drugs are being fueled. Everyone's just making money off this place.
Yeah.
But he was like, and then you just get sent here against your will. He's like, you're trying to get clean. He's like, it's just party time.
Yeah.
So
Black Muslim ladies seem to run the Philly airport.
Yeah.
I was at the Philly airport like a week ago.
Yeah, they got a nice stronghold.
No, but they were killing it. They like got me a refund on my flight and shit. So
yeah, they're fucking sweet. It's funny. Because if you're like a white dude just kicking around, I always assume like black Muslim ladies don't like white people. You see the gear and you're like, I could see them not being a huge fan of me.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you get to know them, they're very sweet.
Yeah, they were chill.
They're very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing about the whole like awakening thing was like my felony, there was some real criminal justice reform where like I actually am not a felon anymore.
Oh, that's cool.
So like they kind of did, and that makes sense. Like that's good. Like, hey, I've behaved for 7 years. Like, can we get rid of the felony?
7 years is a good number too.
Yeah, like it's a jubilee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, it's Jewish jubilee.
Yeah, so I was like, can I get a job at Walmart finally? Like can I not be a felon? And so good shit like that happened. But then there was like criminal justice reform went like a little too far where it was like you can just like bonk ladies on the head with like a bat and not go to jail. Like that's not good, But
no one wanted to be the guy locking people up. It wasn't like politically good.
Not politically good. But I guess now it is.
It's because now you can become the big like hero. Because before we had a guy, who the fuck was he? Larry Krasner, the DA in Philly, and he was like
bad.
Yeah, they were calling him "Let Him Go, Larry." That was, and I knew like back then, like I knew dudes were like selling weed and stuff. He's like, "Oh, let him go, Larry." That's the dude. We love Larry Krasner, and like it's the wrong guys being like, "This guy rules."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it becomes like if you're a DA and you have political aspirations, and it becomes like not politically cool to lock people up. You're like, let's just not lock people up for now, and the city completely goes into disarray because you kind of maybe want to become like a congressperson.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you can't really, people are out here doing, that's the thing. Isn't it like in jail, it's like 90% of the crimes are committed by like literally like 5% of the population across like race and all that stuff.
Yeah,
like,
they say that. Yeah. And shoplifting especially. Yeah. So it's like, snatch these people up. And if they're on drugs, it's like, okay, let's figure out a situation where we maybe mandate them to a long-term treatment center. But we have to like really like look at this like, hey, we're not just like trying to like check boxes here. Like we're really trying to like change this person's life and like give them a life worth living. And like we should really I needed purpose, like I was a finished carpenter. So like I eventually like I got out and like I had like a job that not only paid like a decent wage, but it gave me fulfillment. And I was like, I'm building things, I'm helping people, I'm like making beautiful, I'm making houses beautiful and all that. Like we need to like find what people are passionate about, what they can excel at. And like really set them up for a life where it's like, hey, you can afford a 1-bedroom apartment right out of here. Like you can feel good about you. It's like you're not just going to go get a job at Chipotle and want to kill yourself. And then so we just have to really, this is like a spiritual problem that is plaguing America. Like if you go to any city, like I live in Oakland, California, and it's like, it's totally fucked up.
Yeah, I agree. And it is sad too when you take all these people in jail and it's scary. They all like tattoos and like career criminals. But I do believe at the root of it, it's just like they were once a kid in a very loveless environment. And obviously like there's that's like a continuum. Obviously there's some people who like got it, but there's like other bad stuff mixed in. But then there's people who like just never ever in their life had like anybody care about them at all.
Yeah.
And that's like I think that's the real root issue when you're dealing with people like, jail, anything really.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, how the fuck? And you're going to try to correct that in like an environment that, you obviously need to like take precautions for society. But it's really sad. It's one of those things that's like very, very sad. And I think there is hopefully we'll figure it out. Hopefully we'll figure out a way because you can't go too kumbaya and be like, just give them a guitar and send them out there. And it's like you just bang someone in the head with a hammer and you're like, God damn it.
Yeah. Or like we're doing this thing where like we're just giving people like apartments in San Francisco and then they're on fentanyl so they just die in their apartment immediately. Yeah. So it's like we can't really do that. I understand the argument like homeless, what's the solution? Home. Like give them home, And it's like, okay, but if you're addicted to fentanyl, you're just going to like be alone and OD on fentanyl. So yeah, man, there has to be like a more comprehensive approach. And like, people are like, oh, it's going to cost so much money. And it's like, we're like, San Francisco spends over $1 billion a year on homelessness, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. So it's like, I don't think money's the issue. Like we have the money, we just have to like redirect it into a way that is actually productive. But it's right now it's so set up to just like, you can just launder so much money if you start a nonprofit. It's so easy to start a nonprofit. It's like, I hand out crack pipes, give me, a $2 million contract. It's, we just have to rethink all this shit.
Nonprofits I didn't realize how, because I worked at one before when I was in social work school, and I was like, this is like, and it wasn't like out and out like a total scam, but it was kind of like, dude, you guys can tighten this thing up. Like it becomes incentivized to be like, just have someone show up, sign a box, It's like, yeah, but you could have like 5 appointments in one to make this guy's life easier. And like, well, you get $200 every time they show up. You dirty motherfucker. Yeah. But it's, I don't know. I've remained hopeful. I think something will happen, but it is weird. Is this like the most homeless people we've ever had? Like
I'd imagine
historically, because I know there was always homeless people, but now it's like, you get out of cities and you're like, dude, it's like younger people just hit the rails, dude. And it's like, you see guys in like their 30s or 20s and you're like, bro, like what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Bad. I think there is something to it, man. There's that like spiritual malaise where it's like, there's no point to anything. What's the point? I'm never going to be, X, Y, and Z. And like nobody has that. It's hard to find like the joy in a like, a relatively simple life. Like you're saying, like I can take pride in my work. I can do my thing. Now it's just like everyone's so atomized. There's not like, oh, I'm part of a nice community. I'm part of everything's just off on like their own individual journey that, typically when you're just by yourself, it just leads to like intense frustration and despair anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lack of hope.
Yeah.
What's this? Oh yeah.
It rose 12% from 2022 to 2023. That's pretty bad, right?
That's pretty bad.
That's a gigantic leap.
It rose 64% in San Francisco from the year 2016 to 2022. And at the same time, spending on homelessness increased by 500%. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, and there's no hope. It's like we live in a time when it's like you can work really hard, you can get that raise, you can get that promotion, and it's like you're still not buying a house. Like
I know,
that's just like you can't start a family. People aren't getting married. People aren't having kids. Like it's tough. Hopefully we come out of this. Hopefully whoever wins the presidency, either one of them just makes this shit better. You know, will they do it? Probably not.
Yeah, definitely not. But
we'll
definitely. I tell everyone buy your book. Your book's awesome, dude. Jared
Thank
Glickstein,
you. Yeah. The book's Crooked Smile. If you can't afford it, hit me up. I'll send you a copy, or I'll send you like a PDF. I am not a big reader. I know that's a surprise. I wrote a book, but like I can't read. If you can't read, you're looking for the audio book. It's not here yet, but if you buy a copy of the book, it will encourage my publisher to push for the audiobook, and then I'll like send you a link to the audiobook for free if you show me that you bought the book.
So the publisher is weary about doing the audiobook? Why?
They aren't weary. It's just like it's a different like legal setup with the contract, and it's just going to take time. I don't know, but like this will, if it does good sales, they'll push for it faster, and then like I'll send you like a LimeWire link to the fucking audiobook, or I'll figure it out. But yeah, we're gonna try to push that through quickly.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Tell them to knock it off. Tell them to do it. Be like, dude, just give me recording time. You can record it in like 20 hours, man.
I know. Yeah, I could just, yeah, but it's like it's just a different. It's legal agent shit. I don't know. Who knows?
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming to this.
No, it's an honor, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah.